If you really want to understand where our modern laws come from, things like legal equality and due process, you have to go way, way back.
2,500 years, to be precise,
Mm.
back to ancient Rome, and a set of laws that were carved onto 12 huge bronze tablets.
The 12 tables, and that's our focus today.
Exactly. These laws were written down around 451 BC, and they're just, well, foundational. They set up the whole idea that society should be governed by written rules, not just the opinions of powerful people.
But when you actually read them, some of the rules are incredibly strange and really, really harsh.
Oh, absolutely. They show you a world that was all about order, stability, and sometimes just brutal practicality.
Okay, so let's get into it. We're going to unpack what these first Roman laws actually said, why the common people fought so hard to get them written down, and what they tell us about everyday life back then.
To get the laws, you first have to get the social conflict that led to them. Early Rome was basically split into two groups.
The patricians and the plebeians.
Right. You had patricians, who were the wealthy ruling class. They controlled everything. And then you had the plebeians, the common citizens. And they were getting more and more fed up.
And it's easy to see why. The entire system felt rigged because, well, it was. All the judges were patricians.
And crucially, the laws weren't written down anywhere. They were just tradition. So a patrician judge could basically interpret the rules however he wanted, usually to help out another patrician.
I mean, can you imagine going to court and the judge just makes up the law on the spot?
That's the injustice they were fighting. The plebeians knew the only way to get a fair shake was to have the laws written down, codified so everyone could see them.
And they pushed so hard for this that the government finally gave in. In 451 BC, they set up a special group to do it.
A commission of 10 men called the decemviri, the 10 men. And their only job was to create this official set of laws.
What's really interesting is how they started. They didn't just, sit in a room and write.
No, they did their homework. Our sources say they actually traveled probably to Greek cities like Athens to study their legal systems first.
So the idea wasn't to invent new laws from scratch.
Not at all. It was to take the existing Roman customs, all the messy traditions, and just organize them, make them clear and predictable for everyone. It was the first step toward a republic truly governed by law.
Okay, so the 10 men finish their work, the laws are approved. And then what? Where did they put them?
And this is maybe the most revolutionary part. They didn't hide them away.
They carved them onto 12 massive bronze tablets.
And they put those tablets right in the heart of the city, the Roman Forum.
So think of the Forum as the town square, the political hub, the shopping mall, all in one. It was the most public place in Rome.
By putting the laws there, they were making a huge statement. The law belongs to everyone now. It's public.
Which meant no official could say, oh, I didn't know that was the rule. But it also meant every citizen had a responsibility.
A huge one. Every schoolboy was expected to memorize the entire text of the 12 tables. It was like a basic part of their education.
So you'd have the law in your head from childhood. You'd understand the very structure of your society. Any citizen could, in theory, challenge a judge just by pointing to the written code.
Okay, so that's the big picture.
Mhm.
Now let's dive into the nitty-gritty. How did a lawsuit even start?
Right. Table 1 and 2. If I wanted to sue you, I'd give you a summons. And you were legally required to show up in court. You couldn't just ignore it.
But what if I did? What if I just decided not to go?
Well, then I had the right to physically drag you there. But, and this is a key detail, I had to bring witnesses with me.
Ah, so that stops you from just, beating me up on the way to the courthouse.
Exactly. It keeps the process official, but the law did have some practical exceptions.
It did. If the person being sued was really old or sick, the plaintiff had to provide a ride for them. A horse, a carriage, something.
It's this weird mix of being super strict, but also sort of practical.
Mm.
And all the trials had to happen in a public place during the day. No secret trials, no endless delays.
So the court rules sound strict, but the rules about money and debt, they were on another level.
Oh, absolutely brutal. Owing someone money wasn't just a financial problem. It was seen as a serious moral failure.
It really was. If a judge ruled you owed a debt, or if you even just admitted it in court, you got exactly 30 days to pay it back. That's it. One grace period.
And if you didn't pay up in those 30 days,
Then things got very, very bad. The creditor could legally arrest you, bring you back to the judge, and if you still couldn't pay, you basically became their property.
so they could hold you in chains, make you work as their slave to pay off the debt.
And the law even spelled out the details. It said the chains couldn't weigh more than 15 pounds, and it specified how much grain you had to be fed each day.
That level of detail is just wild. But it gets even crazier if you owed money to more than one person.
This is the part that scholars still debate, because it's so shocking. The law seems to say that if multiple creditors weren't paid, they could literally divide up the debtor's property.
And when it says property, some interpretations suggest it meant the person's actual body.
Yes. Whether that meant selling the person into slavery or something worse, we're not totally sure. But the message was clear. Don't get into debt. The consequences were devastating.
All right, let's shift from money to the family. The tables laid out this core Roman idea of patria potestas.
Which literally means the power of the father.
Mm.
And this was not a metaphor. This was real legal authority. The head of the household, the paterfamilias, had immense control.
Over everything. His children, their property. A child was legally under their father's control until the father died, no matter how old the child was.
And this power was life and death. For instance, if a child was born with a severe deformity, the law actually required the father to be basically abandon the child to die.
It's that brutal Roman pragmatism again. They were focused on the strength of the community. A father could even sell his own son into slavery.
He could. But the 12 tables put a very interesting limit on that.
Right, this is fascinating. If a father sold his son into slavery 3 separate times, he lost his power over that son for good.
It's the state stepping in just a little. It says, okay, we recognize the father's power, but we're not going to let you abuse it endlessly. After the 3rd time, the son is free from your control.
And when the father died, the inheritance rules were super clear. If there was no will, the closest male relatives got everything.
Yep, kept the land and the wealth in the family line. Those male relatives also became the legal guardians for any women or children left behind, since they weren't allowed to manage property themselves.
Which brings us to land. Rome was a farming society, so land was everything. It's no surprise that property laws are really detailed.
For the first time, they made wills legally binding, so you could decide exactly who got your farm, your money, your stuff. But they also tried to solve all the little arguments between neighbors.
Like the tree branches. If your neighbor's tree hung over your property and blocked the sun, you were legally allowed to just cut the branches.
And you absolutely could not move the boundary stones that marked where your farm ended and your neighbors began. That was a huge deal, almost a religious crime.
The laws even got into early city planning. As Rome got bigger, they made a rule that you had to leave a space of 2.5 feet between buildings.
Which sounds tiny, but it was a fire safety rule. That little gap could stop a fire from jumping from one building to the next.
And I love this one. If a public road was in such bad shape that you couldn't use it, you had the legal right to just drive your cart and animals through the private fields next to it.
It shows that the public good, the ability to travel and trade, was more important than one person's private land.
Okay, let's talk about crime and punishment, what we call torts or personal injury. The starting point here sounds so primitive.
It really does. The concept of retaliation in kind. If someone broke your arm, the law said you could break their arm right back, an eye for an eye.
But, this is the important part, the law immediately offered a different path. It strongly encouraged people to agree on a cash payment instead.
Exactly. It's the state trying to stop endless cycles of revenge. For smaller things, like a punch, there was just a fixed fine you had to pay.
And then there's the really weird stuff. The tables made it illegal to use magic spells or chants to hurt your neighbor or their crops.
Which tells you that, 1, Romans clearly believed magic was real, and 2, people blaming their bad luck on a neighbor's curse must have been a common problem.
So what about the most serious crimes, the ones that got you the death penalty?
Perjury lying in court was a huge one. The punishment was being thrown off the Tarpeian Rock, because if you can't trust witnesses, the whole legal system falls apart.
Bribing a judge was also a capital crime, obviously, and setting fire to buildings or crops.
Of course. That threatens the whole community's food supply and safety. Stealing crops at night was also a death penalty offense.
But with all that, the tables included this incredibly important protection for citizens.
This is the bedrock of Roman liberty, really. The law stated that no citizen could be put to death without a formal trial and a final verdict from the People's Assembly.
So a powerful official couldn't just get rid of a political rival. The people had the final say.
Finally, the tables got into everyday public life. The government was paranoid about conspiracies, so secret meetings at night were banned.
Funerals were also heavily regulated. You couldn't have an overly lavish, expensive funeral. They even limited how many women could be hired to wail and mourn professionally.
And for public health, it was illegal to bury or cremate anyone inside the city walls.
My favorite, weirdly specific rule: you couldn't bury gold with a dead person. The only exception was if the gold was part of their dental work, holding their teeth in.
It just shows how practical they were. Don't waste valuable resources by putting them in the ground.
So when you put it all together, what's the big takeaway?
The 12 tables were more than just rules. They were Rome's first social contract. They established that the law applied to everyone, rich or poor, and they were never officially gotten rid of. They were the starting point for Roman law for the next 1,000 years.
So writing these laws down, even though a lot of them seem brutal to us now, was a huge step toward a society governed by clear, predictable rules instead of just raw power.
It really was. It proves that the path to justice often begins with just getting the rules written down for everyone to see.
And it makes you wonder, if someone looked at our laws 2,500 years from now, what would they think is normal and what would they think is completely ruthless? Good luck with your studies.